A world without Donald Trump. Imagine a United States where Donald Trump never stepped into politics. No heated debates, no "Make America Great Again" slogan, no controversial tweets attacking opponents. If that had happened, would American politics be less chaotic? Would the country be less deeply divided? And most importantly, who would have led the nation during that period? To answer this question, we must first understand how Donald Trump changed America. Whether you love or hate him, there is no denying that his emergence marked an unprecedented historical turning point. He was not a traditional politician, he did not follow the usual rules, and that is precisely what set him apart. But if he had never run for office, everything might have taken a completely different course. Before Trump appeared, American politics had already shown signs of instability. Under Barack Obama, the country witnessed significant shifts such as the controversial Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, and the growing surge of conservative populism. The Republican Party at that time was searching for a leader strong enough to challenge Obama's liberal policies. In 2015, when Trump announced his candidacy, many saw him as nothing more than a reality TV personality. But with his blunt rhetoric and direct appeal to voters' frustrations, he quickly generated a massive wave of support, defeating numerous seasoned politicians to secure the Republican nomination. If Trump had not run, who would have taken his place in the race? Two possible scenarios emerge. First, Hillary Clinton could have won easily. If her opponent had been a traditional politician like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, or Ted Cruz, the 2016 election might have been far less dramatic. Clinton would have continued Obama's policies, maintained stable international relations, avoided a trade war with China, and refrained from issuing controversial immigration bans. The second scenario is that another Republican candidate would have taken office. A traditional conservative president would not have made American politics as tumultuous as it became under Trump. However, this also means that the anger of the white working-class population, those who felt left behind by globalization, would have remained unaddressed. This raises an important question. If not Trump, would another figure have risen to represent this dissatisfaction? It is essential to note that Trump was not the sole cause of America's political polarization. He was a result of it. Discontent with the political system had existed long before him. The far-right conservative movement had already been gaining momentum under Obama, and racial and economic tensions had become deeply ingrained in American political life. So without Trump, could the U.S. have avoided the deep divisions seen today? To answer that, let's delve into the next section. If Trump had never run, who would have become the U.S. president in 2016? Who would have been the president in 2016? If Donald Trump had never run for office, who would have represented the Republican Party in the 2016 election? This is a crucial question because Trump's presence not only changed the dynamics of the race, but also reshaped the entire direction of the Republican Party. Without him, the election could have unfolded in a completely different way. Before 2016, the Republican Party was undergoing an identity crisis. After losing twice to Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, they needed a strong figure to rally voters and reclaim the White House. However, traditional candidates like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz, despite their political experience, lacked the appeal to connect with discontented voters. This created an opening for Trump, an outsider who was not part of the political elite, but who knew how to tap into the frustrations of the white working class. Had Trump not run, it is likely that Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, or Ted Cruz would have become the Republican nominee. Scenario 1, Hillary Clinton wins easily. If the Republican candidate had been someone like Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio, the election might have been far less dramatic. While both were competent conservative politicians, they lacked Trump's ability to energize the right-wing populist base. This could have made it easier for Hillary Clinton to secure victory. If Clinton had won, the United States would have continued along Obama's policy path. Domestically, she would have preserved Obamacare, expanded social benefits, and avoided implementing restrictive immigration policies like Trump's. Economically, tax and trade policies would likely have remained unchanged, with no trade war against China. Internationally, the U.S. would have maintained close ties with NATO, remained in the Paris Climate Agreement, and possibly taken a tougher stance against Russia. A Clinton presidency might have brought more stability, but the deep-seated frustrations of conservative voters would not have disappeared. Without Trump, polarization might not have escalated as intensely, but underlying tensions in American society would have persisted, potentially setting the stage for a future political upheaval. Scenario 2. Another Republican candidate wins. If a different Republican candidate, such as Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio, had defeated Hillary Clinton, the U.S. would still have had a conservative president, but political turbulence would likely have been far less intense than during Trump's tenure. Without the MAGA movement, conservative voters would still have supported the Republican Party, but there would not have been a singular figure capable of triggering a political storm as Trump did. International relations might have been more stable, with no direct confrontation with China and no major trade disputes with Europe. Immigration policies would have been stricter than under a Democratic administration, but not as extreme as Trump's. However, a major question remains. Could a traditional conservative president have addressed the grievances of the white working class, those who felt left behind by globalization? This was the very group that propelled Trump to power, and without him, their dissatisfaction would have continued to simmer beneath the surface. Was Trump an irreplaceable figure? A key question to consider is whether Trump was the cause of political shifts in America or merely a product of pre-existing trends. If Trump had not run, right-wing populism might still have risen, perhaps under a different leader. If Hillary Clinton had won, this wave of discontent could have exploded in the 2020 election, leading to the rise of a political figure even more extreme than Trump. Ultimately, with or without Trump, America would still have faced deep divisions in politics, economics, and society. So if Trump had never become president, would American politics still be as polarized as it is today? Would American politics still be polarized? One of Donald Trump's most significant impacts on the United States was the deep polarization in politics and society. Under his presidency, Democrats and Republicans not only disagreed on policies, but also evolved into two deeply hostile factions. But if Trump had never become president, would American politics have been less divided? American politics was already polarized before Trump appeared. Before Trump entered politics, the U.S. was already showing clear signs of political polarization. The divide between the two parties had been growing, particularly during Barack Obama's presidency. The Republican Party fiercely opposed his Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, while social movements like Black Lives Matter highlighted racial inequalities. The rise of the far-right Tea Party movement in 2010 was also a sign that America was shifting toward two ideological extremes. However, Trump was not just a product of polarization, he accelerated it to an unprecedented level. Before Trump, the Republican Party maintained a relative balance between traditional conservatives and populist factions. But Trump shattered that structure, turning the Republican Party into a movement centered around his personal brand rather than a traditional political organization. Why did Trump intensify political polarization? Using social media to attack opponents before Trump, American politicians mostly adhered to traditional norms in public discourse. But Trump weaponized Twitter, openly calling major news outlets like CNN and the New York Times the enemy of the people. He turned mainstream media into a political adversary, eroding public trust in journalism and fostering a highly adversarial media environment. The MAGA movement and the creation of two opposing factions. Trump was not just a president, he was a political phenomenon. The Make America Great Again, MAGA movement became a powerful symbol, rallying millions of supporters who believed Trump was the only one who could save America. Meanwhile, Democrats and Trump's opponents saw him as the greatest threat to American democracy. The division between these two camps was not just about policy disagreements, it was profound ideological hostility. Controversial policies and confrontational leadership. Trump implemented a travel ban on Muslim-majority countries, sparking nationwide protests. He withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, reversing international cooperation on climate change. His trade war with China triggered economic uncertainty. He constantly attacked political opponents, even within his own Republican Party, labeling them as traitors or enemies of America. These actions did not just divide Americans on policy issues. they deepened ideological and social rifts. If Trump had never become president, would polarization have decreased? Some believe that even without Trump, American politics would have remained polarized, but to a lesser extent. If Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, or Ted Cruz had become president, the Republican Party might have maintained its conservative stance, but without Trump's extreme rhetoric. Without Trump, the MAGA movement would never have formed, meaning the Republican Party would not have fractured between pro-Trump loyalists and traditional conservatives. The conflict between the media and the White House would not have escalated as aggressively. However, a crucial question remains. If not Trump, would another figure have emerged to lead the right-wing populist wave? Could there have been another Donald Trump? Polarization in America was not solely Trump's doing. It was the result of deeper societal forces. The frustration of the white working class, feeling abandoned by globalization. The rise of populism and anti-elitist sentiments, increasing racial, cultural, and economic divisions. Even without Trump, figures like Ron DeSantis, Tucker Carlson, or another populist conservative might have risen to channel the same voter discontent. While they might not have had Trump's controversial style, they could still have harnessed public frustration to fuel a new political movement. Conclusion: polarization would persist, but at a lower intensity. If Trump had never become president, American politics would still be divided, but perhaps not as severely. The Democrat-Republican divide would still exist, but without being so deeply personalized around one individual. Without Trump, the U.S. might have avoided the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, which became a symbol of extreme political division. However, the underlying tensions would still be there, and another figure could have stepped in to push American politics toward an even more extreme direction. So, if Trump had never existed, could America have avoided such deep divisions? Or did he simply accelerate a trend that was already inevitable? Major consequences: economy, international relations, and American politics. Donald Trump not only reshaped American politics, but also had a profound impact on the economy and international relations. His policies triggered major disruptions, from the trade war with China to withdrawing from key international agreements. If Trump had never become president, would the United States have taken a different path? 1. What would have happened to the U.S. economy without Trump? One of Trump's biggest legacies is his America First policy, which focused on protecting the domestic economy. He implemented tax cuts, imposed tariffs on imports, and sought to reduce reliance on China. Without Trump, U.S. economic policies might have taken a less confrontational approach. No trade war with China. Trump imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, escalating tensions between the two largest economies. If Hillary Clinton or a traditional Republican president had taken office, the U.S. might have maintained a more globalized trade strategy rather than engaging in direct economic confrontation with Beijing. Without the trade war, the U.S. economy might have experienced more stable growth, avoiding disruptions in supply chains and price increases. Tax policies might have been less favorable for businesses. Trump enacted one of the largest tax cuts in U.S. history, reducing the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. Without him, tax rates might have remained higher, providing the government with additional revenue for infrastructure and social welfare investments. Under a different administration, income inequality might not have widened as rapidly as it did under Trump. Less restrictive immigration policies. One of Trump's most controversial economic policies was tightening immigration, reducing the supply of cheap labor. Without him, the U.S. might not have seen such a sharp decline in immigrant labor, benefiting industries like agriculture, construction, and services. 2. Would international relations have been different? Trump was known for his tough stance on both allies and adversaries. He withdrew the U.S. from multiple international agreements, heightened tensions with China, NATO, and Iran, and disrupted multilateral cooperation. Without Trump, the world might have experienced a more stable diplomatic environment. The U.S. would have remained in the Paris Climate Agreement. Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord, arguing that it hurt the American economy. If Hillary Clinton or a moderate Republican had been president, the U.S. would likely have remained in the agreement and continued pursuing environmental protection policies. Stronger ties with NATO. Trump frequently criticized NATO, demanding that European countries increase their defense spending and even threatening to withdraw the U.S. from the alliance. A different president might have maintained a strong commitment to NATO, preventing unnecessary diplomatic conflicts. Strained relations with Russia. Trump maintained a relatively soft approach toward Russia and Vladimir Putin, while previous U.S. presidents were more cautious with Moscow. Without Trump, the U.S. might have taken a tougher stance on issues like election interference, Ukraine, and cybersecurity. 3. What direction would American politics have taken? If Trump had never become president, American politics might have been more stable in the short term, but long-term social tensions would likely have persisted. No impeachment proceedings. Trump was impeached twice, once for alleged Russian collusion and once for inciting the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. With a different president, these political scandals might never have occurred, and the U.S. would not have experienced the same level of political turmoil. No January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Trump played a crucial role in promoting doubts about the 2020 election results, leading to the Capitol riot. Without him, the U.S. might have avoided one of the most infamous political crises in modern history. The Republican Party might have retained its traditional stance. Trump fundamentally transformed the Republican Party, shifting it from a traditional conservative party to a movement centered around his personal brand. Without him, the GOP might have maintained its conservative principles without becoming as extreme or populist. If Trump had never become president, the U.S. might have avoided numerous conflicts and instability, from economic policies to political divisions and international relations. The trade war with China might never have happened, relations with allies could have remained stronger, and domestic politics might have been less chaotic. However, the issues Trump capitalized on, white working-class discontent, political polarization, and immigration tensions, would have continued to exist. Without Trump, another figure might have emerged to lead the populist conservative wave, though perhaps in a less controversial manner. So, was Trump the cause of these disruptions, or did he merely accelerate a process that was already underway? Was Trump really that important? Donald Trump has left the White House, but his influence on American politics and the world remains significant. If he had never become president, the U.S. might not have been as deeply divided as it is today. But would the changes have been truly significant? Could another figure have emerged to fill the void left by Trump? This is not just a question about Donald Trump as an individual, but also about the overall functioning of American politics. Were the disruptions in U.S. politics caused by one person, or were they the result of long-standing issues? To understand this better, we need to explore two main perspectives on Trump's role in shaping modern American politics. Was Trump the cause, or just the result of political trends in America? One perspective argues that Trump did not create political division. He simply exploited and amplified pre-existing tensions. One voter, discontent, existed long before Trump. Before Trump entered politics, American society was already showing signs of instability. Rising economic inequality. Many working-class Americans felt abandoned by globalization. Manufacturing jobs were outsourced, wages stagnated, and the wealth gap widened, favoring the elite. Racial and immigration tensions. The growing immigrant population was shifting the country's demographic balance, causing concerns among conservative white voters about losing their traditional American culture. Loss of trust in the political system. Many voters believed that neither party, Democratic nor Republican, truly represented their interests and instead catered to the political elite. These factors created the perfect environment for a populist leader to rise. If Trump had never run, another politician might have capitalized on this discontent, but in a different way. 2. Trump was a unique figure, not easily replaced. On the other hand, some argue that Trump was a one-of-a-kind leader who reshaped American politics in a way no one else could. He was a businessman, not a traditional politician. This allowed him to break away from conventional political norms and attack both his opponents and the political establishment. He mastered social media. Twitter and digital media enabled Trump to communicate directly with voters without relying on traditional news outlets. His campaign style was unprecedented. No previous American politician had used such aggressive, blunt, and confrontational rhetoric to engage with voters. If Trump had never existed, it's possible that no other politician could have built a movement as powerful as MAGA, Make America Great Again. This suggests that while Trump may have capitalized on existing trends, he also actively shaped a new political era. Would American politics be better without Trump? If Trump had never become president, the U.S. might have been less divided, politics more stable, and international tensions lower. One, politics in the U.S. might have been less turbulent. In the January 6, 2021, Capitol riot, Trump played a direct role in fueling doubts about the 2020 election results, which led to the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Without him, the country might have avoided one of its worst modern political crises. No two impeachment trials. Trump is the only U.S. president in history to be impeached twice. Without him, the nation might have avoided prolonged political scandals that distracted from governance. No deep Republican Party division. Before Trump, the Republican Party maintained a relatively unified conservative ideology. Under his leadership, it split into pro-Trump loyalists and traditional conservatives. 2. The U.S. might have had better international relations, no trade war with China. Trump's aggressive tariff policies strained U.S.-China economic relations. A different president might have pursued a more diplomatic approach to trade. No NATO and ally conflicts. Trump frequently criticized NATO, threatened to withdraw from the alliance, and accused European nations of not contributing enough to defense spending. Another president might have maintained stronger alliances. No unusual ties with Russia. Trump was often accused of having suspiciously close relations with Russia. A different president might have taken a firmer stance against Moscow, particularly on election interference in geopolitical conflicts. A question for you. So what do you think would have happened if Donald Trump had never become president? Would American politics have been less polarized? Could another figure have emerged to shake up the political landscape in Trump's place? Would the U.S. have been better off without Trump's presidency? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, share the video to get more people involved in the discussion, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future alternate history videos. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Blast off.